Welcome to the Spirit of a Badass, where we celebrate stories of courage, hope, and resiliency. I'm your host, Alecia Jacobson.
Hello to all my badasses out there today. We have a super fun episode for you. I found Christy on Instagram because she was tagged in like a bazillion different stories and posts, and she just kept popping up. And I'm like, who is this person? Because I think I need to know. And I started following her, and she is Mocktail Mommy. And then I realized, I've actually met her before. She was at my Easter celebration and is friends with my cousin. So we had like this whole it all full circle. But you maybe haven't met her. Maybe you already have and you love her. But I'm really excited for you to hear her story, her journey, and then what you always get to hear on the podcast is the beautiful things that people have made with the kind of ick stuff that has come up. So you are going to get a good heavy dose of that today. And I'm really excited for you to hear Kristi's story. Kristi Tanner is a certified recovery coach approaching her 5th sober anniversary, a single mom of 4, and opening the first dedicated non-alcoholic bottle shop in Wisconsin. She has been transparently sharing her story of alcohol addiction and recovery as a mom via Instagram at Mocktail Mommy since 90 days sober. Whether you're proudly sober, sober curious, on a health and wellness journey, or simply looking to abstain from alcohol for the night, Sober Social has the perfect options for you. From alcohol-removed wines to non-alcoholic beers and spiritless spirits, her hope is that people will feel welcome to ask questions both about the amazing array of non-alcoholic products, but also about recovery, the recovery process, living alcohol-free, alcohol education, resources, etc. She plans to start a sober business directory, offer monthly mocktail mixology classes, sober author readings, and themed mocktail boxes. Welcome, Kristi.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here, and I am so glad that our worlds kept colliding so that this could happen.
Yes, it's so funny because I think my sister knows you, and she was like, you need to have her on your podcast. And this was before my podcast hadn't even been launched, I don't think, at this point. So you're probably in my notes. And then here you are. So this is wonderful because way back then she said, you need to interview her.
Oh, that's so great. I trusted myself to share this ick stuff that I was going through when I was going through it. As hard as that was to do, it is touching people years later. And I couldn't really ask for anything more than like this gift of being able to give back something so much bigger than my addiction took.
Yeah. Take us there. We're just going to dive right in. So take us to, before you were in recovery. So before 5 years ago, and tell us kind of what life was like, what was happening, and then take us to, okay, I need to make some changes here, and what exactly happened there.
I would say it's hard to say where it started. There's not a clear, here it was. I drank one time in high school in my sophomore year. I had a terrible experience with it. I overdid it and made an embarrassment of myself, which would become my pattern. My pattern didn't change from day 1 to day zillion, but I thought that was just, I didn't do it right. I didn't eat before. I thought it was all these other things. So I didn't mess with alcohol after that time for another 2 years until I went to college. And in college, I felt like everyone was sort of socially drinking, and I was right there with them. Now, I blacked out all the time, and no one sort of told me that was bad. And I assumed that other people were blacking out as well. And when I would mention that I don't remember how we got home, or where I left my jacket, or my dignity, whatever the thing was that I came home without, people would sort of be like, oh, that's so funny, and it was like socially acceptable in college. And there was a time period after college where I think a lot of people sort of put those habits down It's like that was a college thing. Now that we've graduated, we've got a job, we're starting to find relationships, we have responsibilities, we may be having families, getting married, whatever the case may be. And a lot of people were able to tailor their drinking habits to this new young adulthood. I didn't do that. I didn't even try to do that. I didn't want to do that. I didn't even consider doing that. I thought that alcohol was something that showed you were sophisticated if you could drink it and hold your own, whatever that meant. It showed you were classy because you were out having a cocktail. It showed that you were an adult. You must not have any issues going on in your life because you're out having a cocktail and listening to music. Like, life is good. That is the goal, is to go be at happy hour with a bunch of friends. Is it not? I thought that was the goal. I wanted to be there all the time.
That's so interesting. I've heard that story with people before about, I feel classy. This is what adults do. I feel sophisticated. That's a big one too that I have heard. And that's so interesting going into it with that mindset where you're saying, well, why would I change it? Because this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
For sure. I think the way that I grew up in a well-to-do area, sort of the country club lifestyle, and alcohol was central to every holiday gathering at the club, every party at the club. You know, I thought it was so cute that they got to hold these cute little glasses that was sparkly with fun colors in them. I was like, I totally want to do that. I want to have a themed white party to go to. Yes. I thought it showed that you had arrived somehow. We didn't ever really talk about the negative side effects of alcohol. When I had my first son, it was easy for me to stop drinking. I was annoyed, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm reaching for the bottle. It had definitely become something my husband and I shared together a handful of nights a week. We're splitting a bottle of wine, maybe 2 on Saturday, whatever the case. It was definitely a part of our lifestyle. But when I was pregnant, it wasn't like I was craving it. When I had my son, the first thing I did was have a glass of champagne in the hospital. I brought it with me. I was so excited to have my champagne back. Like, woo, like I've made it. This is insane. Let's celebrate my success of going alcohol-free for 9 months. Go me. I mean, this was the healthiest I had ever treated my body, was when I was pregnant. I ate the best holistic meals that I could. I ate meat for the first time in a long time. Like, I put down a lot of my personal issues about my body and how I felt about it to make sure that this baby was getting what the baby needed. And that included eating the right foods and not drinking alcohol. And I was so willing to do that. But I was really excited to get back to my champagne and like going out. And I continued to drink and I would pump and dump. I thought that was totally fine. I didn't think twice about it at all. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to drink tonight, so I'm just going to dump. You can have formula. I just like didn't consider the sacrifice that may be making for me, for him, for our time together, for a routine, for whatever. Like, I didn't consider it because I wanted to feel relaxed, off the clock, like I'm not mom right now, like I'm back to being Christy. And I had lost a little of that autonomy, being pregnant, having all these doctor's appointments, feeling accountable to another person, like truly accountable for the first time. And it was a big shift in responsibility. And I thought I could sort of take that hat off, right? Yeah. There's a babysitter and I'm going to take that hat off right now.
Yeah. Almost like switching identities. Like, I'm putting Christy back on.
That's correct.
Christy, the mom, I'm putting over here, and I'm taking Christy, the woman, the adult, and we're going to go over here.
100%. I just like switched like that. It was like, oh, I get to be myself again. I was not aware that I was not morphing my worlds together. I was trying to maintain two completely separate, different worlds and not allow them to change each other, which is the process of motherhood and adulthood in itself.
Yeah.
So I got pregnant really quickly right after my first kid. I was pregnant with my second kid. Again, not a huge problem to stop drinking, but again, the first thing I went back to. And when I went back to drinking the second time, my second son was in the NICU for a month with viral meningitis, which was just so scary. I felt helpless and scared, and I was worried all the time. And after that experience, when I got home, I really ramped up my alcohol intake. When I put my two then kids under 2 to bed, I felt totally justified drinking as much wine as I wanted to because I had made it through the day. And it was so hard. And I didn't talk to anyone about probably the postpartum depression that I was going through. And I didn't have the support group that I really should have had. And I wasn't sharing with other women going through that same time. I didn't have a tribe, and I was trying to do this on my own, and my husband went back to work, and I was pissed at myself for not being able to do it perfectly. And it was some sort of messy way to deal with not being the perfect mom, missing my old life, not loving the way my marriage felt, and not knowing what to do about any of it. And alcohol was a reliable coping skill. It took me somewhere else and away from my life and the issues that I really should be thinking about, that I really want to be dealing with, that as much Band-Aids as I put on top of them, they really are never going to stop bleeding if I don't deal with the root of the problem. I got pregnant again very quickly, and in the middle of my third pregnancy, at the 20-week ultrasound, we found out that he was going to be born with a birth defect with a unilateral cleft lip and palate. And that diagnosis changed how I felt about me as a person. Like I felt like I did something wrong before he was even born. And my alcohol use was something I questioned. Did this cause this? I did research and I've asked all the doctors. It doesn't. That's not linked to alcoholism, but alcohol usage during pregnancy can lead to a lot of things. But, it's like, what did I get pregnant when I was I just was full of guilt. And I was terrified that I was already had these 2 little kids and my husband was very busy and we were not in a good place. And now we're going to have 3 boys under 3.5. And I'm responsible for all of them. And now I'm not going to be able to breastfeed my son. And so I'm going to be pumping. And my head was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. And after my son was born, I was so relieved that he's just a child, just like any other child. He's beautiful and perfect, and he is wonderful, and he's a happy, healthy 7-year-old today. And I am the right mom for him. But was it hard? Oh my gosh, was it hard? He had 3 major surgeries his first year. He had PT and OT and all the things. And I felt really alone and really responsible and really exhausted. And I felt like we could afford babysitters, and lots of people could not afford babysitters. And so I should be grateful for the help that I had. And I didn't feel heard by some of the people closest to me how much I was really struggling because it looked so good from the outside. And by the time I realized how far down this sort of like guilty, depressed, anxious, destructive path that I was mentally on myself, of not telling anyone how I felt about these uncontrollable things in motherhood, in life. But I needed somebody to talk to and didn't have that. And alcohol became my escape every time. The most reliable, the quickest way to leave it behind, to signal to my brain that I get to just take a break right now. And thinking back to having 3 kids under 3.5, and the fact that I would drink to black out while my husband was traveling haunts me to this day. And I am forever grateful that nothing horrific happened to my children, that they're okay, because I certainly wasn't going to wake up for a whining baby when I'm blacked out. And I wasn't willing to look at that pattern for a long time. I went to rehab that summer for a month after an incident. I ended up in the psych ward, and my husband was like, "You can't come home." And I was like, I want to be mad at him, but he's probably right. When I got to rehab, I went to a really fancy one in California, and I sort of treated it like a mommy vacation. And I wanted to get an A in rehab. I like to have everyone like me. I want to be friends with everyone. I want all the therapists like me. I want all the clients like me. I want to be best friends with everyone. Just give me all my homework and I'll just fill it out, and then I can lay out and we can all be friends. I was not able to take it seriously. I didn't consider myself an alcoholic. I didn't think I had a drinking problem. I thought I had a life problem. I thought I had circumstantial problems. I thought I had situational problems. I didn't think I had an alcohol problem. I thought I had people problems.
That's so interesting. When looking now, can you kind of define those different pieces for anybody listening that maybe oh, wait, I hear myself in that? Can you go a little deeper there?
Yeah. I thought things in my life were happening to me. And I thought that, well, shoot, my marriage is not good. This is something happening to me. I didn't feel responsible for it. I felt like I don't know what to do about this. So that's a big problem that we'll leave over here and won't deal with that big problem, because that would change everything. And I can't imagine after being married and having children together, not being married and not having my children 100% of the time. I can't imagine that, and I don't want to, so I'm not going to look at that. Perfect. Next, that was one thing. The amount of there's things that happen with a problematic pattern of drinking. It's can you control your consumption? If you just stop and ask yourself that question, really honestly, if I set my limit to say, I'm going to have 1 glass of wine tonight, do you stick to it? Do you honor what you say to yourself? I never did. I always justified another drink. Well, but I bumped into Susie. I haven't seen Susie in forever. Oh my God. Okay, well, we're just going to split a bottle of wine, and then we just decided to stay for dessert. And so we had a nightcap and blah, blah, blah. I felt like I had this exciting life that I could justify all these things. I had a baby. I was pregnant. Then I wasn't pregnant. There was a baby shower. There was this thing. There was a wedding. There was a party. I had all these things going on. Of course there was alcohol. What was I supposed to do? Go and not drink? Come on. I felt totally justified in my drinking habits because of the things that we were doing, the places we were going, the people we were surrounding ourselves with, the time period in our life. We had 9 weddings one year. Connecting with anyone who was an adult to wear clothing that was not covered in baby vomit, to leave the house without 75 million strollers and diaper bags. Like, I needed so much support. I didn't have it. And the support system that I knew I could always find was a bar, and a bar full of people. Any time of day, anywhere in the USA, anywhere in the world, I can always find someone to drink with and chat with. And when I'm chatting with them, I get really invested in their story and lose a lot of awareness of my own. And that was my goal.
Did you know that was your goal?
No, I thought drinking was fun. I thought I was having fun. This is me having fun, not being a mom right now. And I had forgotten how to have fun without alcohol, probably a long time before that. And I didn't know what else to do. I didn't think of going to yoga as an outlet. I did yoga then. I love yoga, but I thought yoga was a workout. I still do yoga to this day, but yoga for me now is a mental meditation and release and reset. Totally different mindset. Same activity. I didn't know who I could talk to. I had a therapist. I loved my therapist. I felt like she could be my best friend. I was not honest with my therapist about the amount of alcohol I was drinking. I was not honest with my doctor about the amount of alcohol I was drinking. I couldn't be honest with myself about the amount of alcohol I was drinking because I truly don't know. Because when I started, I didn't have an off switch. I never did. I never could find it. People suggested for years and years that I find my limit and stick to my limit. I tried so hard. I tried 1. I tried 7. I tried 5. I tried 11. None of them worked because once I started, I couldn't stop. It doesn't matter what it was. It doesn't matter what time of day it was. It doesn't matter what was happening the next day. It didn't matter who I was with. It didn't matter what I was doing because my brain didn't know anything else. Everything else went out the window. I would find a way to keep drinking for the rest of the day. And if I could, the rest of the week. And I just felt like I was managing the best I could. And if I was honest about it, people wouldn't like me. People would be scared of me. I would be scared of me. If I knew someone acting like this, I would be scared for them. And I would be scared for their kids. And I would want them to get help. And I would be scared to talk to them about it.
Oh, interesting. Were people afraid to talk to you about it? Did you find that out later?
Absolutely. So many people thought back to situations of me and them, like a hairdresser of mine in Chicago reached out to me after I shared a little of my story publicly. And she was like, I feel horrible. That time that you were drunk in my hair chair, like, and I knew you left to get more alcohol and like she helped me get home. She did more than she had to do, but she felt responsible somehow for me having an alcohol problem and her not knowing what to do about it when it showed up in her real life. I don't feel that way at all. It's no one else's responsibility but my own. And that's the truth. It's my addiction. I think circumstances can make it harder. I think genetics play a role, but some people are just wired for addiction, and I'm one of them.
So where was this point where you're like, okay,
Okay, so I went to rehab for a month. I didn't take it seriously. I got back. I stayed sober for a little over a month. And then we moved from Chicago to Madison, Wisconsin. And it was kind of like, we're going to give this a new start. You get to be brand new Christy. Nobody knows your drinking issue in Wisconsin. Nobody knows. And it's like, ooh, yes. Okay. Fresh start. I'm going to do this time. I just got out of rehab. I have to be super careful with my alcohol consumption. I'm not going to drink anymore.
Yeah, those are two very different things.
Absolutely different things. So it didn't take long for things to blow up, of course, except for then I got pregnant. Surprise! Our marriage is a hot mess. We have just moved to a new state, and I'm surprise pregnant. I'm delighted. And also, we did not plan this.
Yeah.
And I'm aware that I have an alcohol issue, even though I just graduated rehab with pats on the back that I'm going to be good. I knew deep down that I would have to deal with this addiction and that someday I would have to stop drinking. And I could not imagine that life. Didn't even want to. I didn't want to. I thought I was going to outsmart the thing. I thought I could beat it. You can't beat it. So I got pregnant. Things got really complicated with my husband and I. Things were not good. I missed drinking so much. I thought about drinking often. I started drinking after I was 6 months pregnant. I would be like, oh, I'm just going to have like a half a glass of white wine once a week. I made choices that I am really not proud of. And when my daughter was born, 2 days later, 36 hours after having my daughter, I decided to take 4 kids under the age of 5.5 by myself to a Halloween party. And I have a newborn in one arm, a glass of champagne in the other arm. And people at this party were looking at me like, is that your baby? Who is here with you? And I was like, nobody. I just got 4 kids with me. It's fine. My husband's like off at work. People were very concerned. And I'm relatively new to the area. We're in a really nice neighborhood. My kids are cute. I'm dressed the right way. Who's going to approach me? So nobody did. And it wasn't their responsibility to, but I didn't have a lot of mirrors up for what was going on.
That's a really interesting way to put it. I've never heard that before.
Nobody showed me, and I just kept escaping. How was I ever going to know the wrath and confusion and terror that my alcohol consumption was causing, not just people around me and in my family and really close to me, but also people just in my world who don't know me, but then are concerned not just for me, but for my children, for themselves. Is she drinking and driving 4 kids? I sure did. Well, it was only 6 blocks. That's really problematic. Things get worse before they get better. My drinking does not stop. It escalates. I am diagnosed with postpartum depression in January, which obviously they are giving me meds. Certain meds, like an SSRI, do not work with a depressant like alcohol. So if you are on an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety and you are confused about why the effects are not making you feel the way you hope they would, it could be because you are drinking alcohol. I didn't know that for years. My drinking with my daughter, with 4 kids under 5.5, and a problematic marriage went from bad to worse really quickly. And I started making decisions which made more and more people outside of my direct family uncomfortable. My husband served me divorce papers. We were not in a good place, but I didn't know that was coming. And it was the first time in years that I did not turn to alcohol because this problem seemed too big for even alcohol to help me with. And I called a woman in the neighborhood who was a lawyer, a retired lawyer, but I was like, I don't even know what this says, but I know I'm in a not good place and I've got no legs to stand on. And this is really bad. So I stayed sober for 37 days and I was absolutely positive that I had cured myself. I had just been served divorce papers and I had stayed sober for over a month. I'm probably better now. So my now ex-husband and I went to Summerfest together and he had a beer. And so I just decided to have one too. And it wasn't that day that was the problem. It was just that it started the cycle all over again. And so that day led to many more days, and many more days led to bigger problems. And I got 2 DUIs in the same week. Luckily, my children were not in my car. Thank God, because there were times that I drove intoxicated with my children in my car. I hate that. And that is a reality of addiction. If you run out and you are physically shaking, you pack the kids up and you go to the grocery store to get more. I got there. And my husband and I were obviously not talking and no one was around. And my drinking skyrocketed. Like, I no longer cared that people were scared of me. I no longer cared what they thought of me. I no longer really cared about anything. I just wanted to go to bed. I wanted it to be all over. I didn't know what I wanted. I loved my kids so much, but it was so hard. I felt so alone, and it was so sad. So when I got my second DUI, I was passing through Gary, Indiana. That is not the place you want to get pulled over. So I went to jail there, and I was on the 5th floor, and I spent over 24 hours there. And it was the worst 24 hours of my life and the scariest. And I thought I would never see my children again. I was positive I would never have friends again. My family would disown me. Everything would be over. My parents bailed me out of jail, picked me up, and I said, okay, I like raised the white flag. I give up completely. I cannot do this. I don't trust myself. I want to, but I don't. I've tried everything. I've set a million rules and I break every single one. They're like, okay, like we're going to basically hang out with you until you go to rehab because I needed a babysitter.
Yeah.
We hired a full-time nanny, like 14 hours a day kind of nanny to be with my kids and my husband. And I went to rehab for 2 months. I saw my kids once a week. They came to visit. That was essential for me for these. I mean, my daughter was 7 months old. You don't get those times back. It was so hard to go. And it literally saved and changed my life all at the same time. When I got back from rehab, I sat down with my husband and I said, I can't stay sober in a house where I was so addicted, where every single nook and cranny was a hiding spot. Everything was a trigger for me. He was a trigger. Our house was a trigger. Everything was like fire alarms going off in my world all the time just for existing. Driving past Target that I used to go to, like, how am I ever going to go to Target again? These were things I just like, everything was hard. And we kept our full-time nanny and I moved out and I got an apartment. And that was really the beginning of the end of the end. I think we both knew that I would never move back in and we would probably never live together again, but nobody was really talking about it like that. It was just like, this is what I need to stay sober, and that's all there is to it. And true story, that is what I needed to stay sober. And also, I was isolated again. It was really hard. And then 6 months into my sobriety, boom, pandemic.
Damn.
So I'm living in temporary housing, right? In an apartment without my kids. We're nesting. So I'm popping into the house. And then when it's not my placement, I'm at my apartment. He's at the house with the kids. And then when he's not there, he's at a lake house. Like, we had this whole system.
Yeah.
But the nanny was the constant and the kids stayed in our marital home. But then the pandemic hit. And it's like, oh my God. So I had found a house. I closed on my house March 16th, 2020. And we moved in. I was relying on AA every single day. I went to AA physically, my butt in a chair at least once, if not twice a day, like lifeline. Like, if I didn't know what to do with myself and I couldn't think about anything but drinking, I would find a meeting. I had to be relentless about recovery until I was free from it.
Oh, that's a really interesting term. I had to be relentless about recovery.
It had to be the first, most important, absolute highest need all the time. And it was really hard. And I'm so grateful I did that because it's paying off in humongous ways today. But it was like so damn messy for the longest time. And just because I was 6 months sober, my life didn't magically get better. In fact, it was messier for a very long time with the divorce and being 6 months sober, and my sober community then sort of felt like taken away with the pandemic. Like there was no more meetings. Then there's Zoom meetings, but they're totally different and it's not the same. And life is hard for everyone in the pandemic. I felt like I was drowning and I cried every day for 18 months, every day. But I stayed sober every single day. I came close a handful of times, right? But I always played the tape forward. What happens after one? Jail, hospitals, rehab. There's only one more place after that, and I don't want to go there. It took a long time to feel like I could trust myself to have a life outside of recovery again.
How long was that?
Probably about 3 years in. I felt like I really was firmly planted in sobriety. I didn't go to meetings because I needed them. I went because I wanted them, because my people were there, because I felt like I learned in the rooms. I liked the authenticity, transparency, growth mindset. I like a lot of things in recovery meetings, not just AA, but recovery meetings. And I went back for that. And I realized, like, you don't have to go to AA because you need it. You can go because you want it. Who knew? You could choose to live sober rather than have to live sober. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
A totally different experience. And somewhere around 3 years in, which is also when I got divorced, and, after fighting for so long, and we continued fighting because we're special, but I felt these levels of, okay, these heavy parts of my life are like becoming farther in the past. These realities of things that I've done and choices that I've made, I'm farther away from them now. And should an experience come up again, I would choose differently. And I know that to be true about myself today. And I trust myself to do what I say I would do. I started living this, totally transparent life, which was shocking to a lot of people. It was very awkward. I was incredibly awkward to be around. I'd be like at the checkout person and be like, do you know what I'm not checking out with? And he'd be like, what? And I'd be like, champagne! I'm 97 and a half minutes sober right now. They're like, awesome. Right. Like, but I had to just like celebrate all the wins, which was every second and every minute. I didn't trust myself at first. So like I did things like I would leave my ID in my car. Really hard to buy alcohol without a valid ID. Not going to go back to my car to get it. But I didn't totally trust myself until about 3 years. I was scared to travel alone. I love drinking and traveling. Hello, what do you do in an airport? Get a cocktail. What do you do when you are on vacation? Drink. What do you do on a beach? Have a margarita. Like everything was about the drink. And for me, I felt like, oh no, I don't know how to like do things anymore. Can I do these things anymore? Ever again? Because I want those things in my life.
What is it like now? Because that's something that a lot of people have that concern. What am I going to do? For instance, I stopped drinking coffee a week ago because just to kind of heal my nervous system. And I was making videos about it. And I'm like, the trickiest part was this past weekend, because I was like, well, what do I do? This is a ritual. So it's such a ritual in people's lives. How do you enjoy these rituals and how are they exciting? How are you still true to who you are in a very trusting way that you are out there living and laughing and having fun and doing all these things?
Yeah. I mean, I stayed home and humble for a long time. The pandemic really helped me do that. I took a lot of time for healing and not having an escape button and just kind of being able to be uncomfortable. And when I started traveling, I sweat through my like tank top I was wearing because I was physically having an anxiety response to this freedom and this like the reminders and the enjoyment of a cocktail on the plane, and it sets up your day. And this is, what am I going to do on the beach when everyone's drinking? And I realized not going to the beach didn't serve me because I love the beach. That felt like a punishment to myself, and no one told me I had to do that. No one told me I had to stay away from the beach. You know what I did stay away from is bars. I don't really have a need to go to bars. And when I used to travel from bar to bar to bar to bar and really never see the environment I was in. And instead, as a sober person traveling, I travel, I get up for sunrise yoga, I have a noon hike scheduled, I have a 6 p.m. live music I'm going to because I've done my research and I have the freedom and ability to do that. I am 100% trust myself to stay true to who I am and confidently walk into any location now at almost 5 years sober and enjoy myself as a single person. And I thought I would die and shrivel up as, this single mom with like, I'm allergic to cats. So I don't know, like lizards or something.
I'm so sorry. When I got divorced, I was like, I don't want men. I just give me the cats and I will be fine with the cats. And you're allergic to them.
I can't have the cats.
Oh, goodness.
I know, no cats and no wine during the divorce, and then no friends because of the pandemic. So it was like,
Yeah.
and yet also one of the things I really enjoy when I travel sober is actually meetings. I love going to AA all over the world. I've been in Hawaii. I've been in Scotland. I've been in Arizona. I've been in Florida. And meetings are different all over the country. New people, new advice, new stories. Do you know what's similar? Everyone doesn't want to be drinking. I generally tend to go the first day after I arrive as just a reminder to myself of who I am, and it helps me to share my story in a room of like, hi, my name is Christy. I'm an alcoholic. I don't drink. I'm traveling here from out of town. I'm so excited to be here. Maybe that's all I need to say, but I need to say it. And then it's the best way to find out where's the best local coffee place, where do I do yoga, where's the cutest boutique, where do I need to go eat. Like, you have locals who then tell you how to get around in this new city. They give you their phone number. Some of them have a car. Like, it's just this other world of support, and it's always there. And it feels like I'm never alone. And I don't even go to AA regularly in Madison anymore, but I always go when I travel.
Yeah. I don't know why that makes me want to cry thinking of you're going on a trip someplace and the next day, whatever, you know, the first day there, it's you're kind of grounding yourself in your intention and
Always.
who am I? And then just solidifying that. Is that common, do you know, or is that like a practice that because it's such a beautiful practice?
No, I don't know anyone else who like does that. It's just something that I do because I feel like community serves me, authenticity serves me, and the best way for me to know myself is for me to open my mouth or put my pen to paper. And sometimes I need feedback. And I'm alone a lot as a single mom. I'm not dating anybody. My parents don't live here. Like, I don't have I have tons of friends, but like, we don't see each other. They all have lives. So a lot of times I need community and perspective. And I know that in the rooms, I'm going to get it. And if I need support, I'll find it. And these people don't judge me, nor do they know me. And I feel great about it. I always travel with my journal. My journal was like my security blanket for a really long time. Like, I have it with me next to me right here. Like, I literally go nowhere without it. And for a long time, I used it like anywhere I was really uncomfortable. I would use it to avoid eye contact.
Ooh, I like that as a person who's just awkward socially.
So I'd be like, oh gosh, oh my gosh, I'm just so, this thought right now,
I need that in my life. I have a thought, excuse me.
That's seriously, it's, and when I'm writing, people do not bother me. And I've been a writer since fifth grade. I've had a journal always. They used to be called diaries, but now I call them journals because I'm turning 40 this year. So, I'm graduating. But it was like my security blanket for a long time until I felt like my alcoholism didn't define me in a negative way. I was sort of like, shoot, I don't know. What if people know who I am and they know my story and this vulnerability about me? It's so uncomfortable. And what if they're judging me? Because it was hard to be honest about it online and then meet people in real life.
Yeah.
And now that's my favorite part. My absolute favorite part of having the confidence or stupidity or whatever it was to use the internet as my accountability was that I know it's helped people because I've talked to them and I've met them And that's all I could ever hope, right? Is that like together we rise. We all heal with shared information that's valuable. Not everyone needs to go to the depths of addiction to understand that it would be incredibly beneficial for you as a human to just take a look at your relationship with alcohol. Does it serve you? What do you use it for? Why do you drink? Are you looking for fun? Do you actually like the people you're drinking with? Are you happy in your life? Like really just be willing to answer these questions and say like, okay, maybe alcohol has a role. That's totally fine. Are you happy with the amount of time and money and the role that it's taking up? And if you are, then wonderful. And if you can control your drinking, because many people can, hats off to you. But I am not one of those people. And I'm so glad that today in society, it's becoming so much more acceptable to say no thanks. I'm good. And people don't look at you like you are seriously, suffering from something.
Yeah. Well, and it's becoming more acceptable because there's people like you sharing your stories, sharing how you can still, I don't want to say live the same life because you're not living the same life, but you can live a new evolved life,
right?
Having just as much fun,
Yes.
having just as many friends and maybe different friends
Yes.
because we evolve as you start to change and grow. But because of people like you sharing your story, where you said stupidity, it's more like bravery. I don't think it's stupidity. It's sort of like, here's what I need to do because I need it for me, but also you showing up supports other people going through the same thing, or maybe they know somebody who's going through the same thing. So tell us, you have this really exciting thing happening in your life. Give us all the details so anybody who is local or maybe traveling to the Madison Middleton area can hear all about it and know how to support you.
Yes. So after all of this, life is good. My kids and I are happier than ever. Everyone is happy and healthy. And my daughter will be going to kindergarten in the fall. And I'm feeling like I'm ready to graduate from being a stay-at-home mom because now I have new time. And I really want to make an impact in the community. And I have been really confused about what that clear pathway was. And I got certified to be a recovery coach, and I do love that work, but I felt like I wasn't able to make a big enough impact fast enough on enough people and loud enough and quick enough. And so I was like, what else can I do? And so I took this thing called Sands Bar Academy, which was a 10-week class on how to open up a non-alcoholic bar or bottle shop, run by Chris Marshall, who opened the very first non-alcoholic bar in the country in 2017. So
Oh, can we just take a minute? 2017?
So he opened this bar in 2017 called Sands Bar in Austin, Texas. And he basically started like with a table popping up out of the back of his car with non-alcoholic beer, because that's what there was. And then brands started developing alcohol-free spirits. And so then he would make some mocktails. Well, he opened a full-on bar and it's thriving and successful, and they have 2 locations. And now there are all these people, seemingly after the pandemic, people really had an opportunity to be aware of their relationship with alcohol when they didn't have accountability many other places and they were home. Lots of people drank more, and then lots of people decided to drink less. And so these non-alcoholic bars and bottle shops are sort of popping up. And so I decided that I am bringing the very first non-alcoholic bottle shop to the state of Wisconsin. We don't have one here. And I'm so excited. I found this perfect location. It's 677 square feet. So it's like this little adorable white and gold and pink, because I'm me, white and gold and pink little place of happy. And I'm going to be carrying all these non-alcoholic brands from all over the country. And right now, the way that people can get these really awesome ready to drink products, less spirits, de-alcoholized wine, and alcohol-free beer is right now direct with the company. And then they pay a huge amount in shipping. There is not a place. So if you're a drinker and you want to go make some really fun drinks and find some awesome drinks, you go to a liquor store. I am doing that for non-drinkers. It is all alcohol-free products, everything in the shop. And they are all these small brands. They are amazing stories. It's such a new and exciting and really community-backed environment that like I personally have spoken to most of the brands I am carrying, their founders, and know their stories and why they made this product and the void that it's filling and the reasons behind it. And the biggest thing is that we're all doing it because we're passionate about living without alcohol and how great it has served us. It has changed my life in the most incredible way. And I don't think that you're bad if you drink. And I think that there's a place for drinkers and non-drinkers to hang out. And I think that this is a way for us to bridge that gap. You don't have to not do happy hour because you're sober. You can do happy hour without the hangover. You can still have a lavender mixed margarita on a Thursday. Thank you. And it can be purple and adorable, okay? And you can make it with your girlfriends and you can eat it with your tacos and it'll be amazing. But you won't miss your workout the next morning and you won't lose your patience and your skin will still look good because you'll remember to take off your makeup. Or maybe you want to drink less. You have one real old fashioned and then your second drink is a de-alcoholized whiskey and non-alcoholic orange bitters. There you go. You can still have the taste of an old fashioned without the alcohol. And for a long time, I think people in general were scared of the drinking environment and the ritual being a trigger. And I do believe for a lot of people in early recovery, it can be. There are certainly drinks that if your drink was gin, that I would not recommend that you get a product that tastes and smells like gin. That would probably be really triggering. I'm in recovery myself, and I'm going to be working in the store. I want to help you pick a product that you will be happy drinking, that will fit your needs. And I hope the fact that I have been so open about my story that people feel like they can tell me if they have an issue drinking something and still want to find something.
Yeah. Well, I think you create the environment of safety and security there. And with your own transparency and your own story shining brightly as you are, creating this space for them, they absolutely, I mean, I know everybody has on their own journey, but you create that space for them to be able to show up in that way and say, hey, not this, but this, or, hey, I'm curious about this, or anything, or I just want less, or I'm having a party and I want to be able to offer my friends who choose not to, because you can't go anywhere really to a party that it's like, okay, you have water or you can have soda.
100%.
And it's like, that's not fun. So being able to even offer that, if people want to mix and match, or you have friends who choose not to have alcohol for whatever reason it is, you're offering them options.
You just take the need for the alcohol conversation and the questions about why are you not drinking off the table if you have both and if they look the same. Like, we don't need to identify sober people with like a big S on theirs. Like, we don't need to be like, it doesn't have to be like that. We can have fancy glasses with really cute bubbly things inside of them, and there can be no alcohol in it. As long as you're careful. I mean, just be smart, Don't grab the wrong champagne bottle.
Yeah, I've heard a story. Well, it was on TikTok, so I mean, I assume it, but it was like at a restaurant or something. And
there have been that is a serious thing, because I think that could be detrimental to someone who orders a mocktail and accidentally gets a real cocktail. And that's something that I know could never happen in my store.
Yeah, which is so cool.
And I feel great about that.
100%. I can be in this space and feel confident and safe in all of my choices.
100%.
Christy, thank you so much.
I'm so excited, and I can't wait to meet everybody and answer questions. And I'm really honored that you asked me to be on here with you today.
Oh, thank you. You're the service that you are providing and sharing yourself with people. I know that you have already experienced the ripple effect of it, and you've been able to see this is what's happening. You get messages, I'm sure, all the time, but I'm just so thankful that you were here and sharing it on this platform, because I know people, there's just a little seed planted, and then, even if it's not today or tomorrow, it's there. So I'm really grateful for you and your story and your willingness to be transparent and share it with everybody.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our conversation today.
Okay. Thanks, Christy.
All right. Thanks.
All right, my beautiful and loyal listeners, I am here asking you for a favor. The Spirit of a Badass podcast has been nominated for Best of Madison. There are 6 podcasts in this category, and only 3 will make it on to Best of. So you don't get to be a badass by yourself. We get here by the support of other people in our community. And I am asking you, my beautiful community, to take about 2 minutes of your time, follow the link in the show notes, and go ahead and cast your vote for the Spirit of a Badass. If you are driving or something like that, go ahead and set an alarm for when you'll be done, or a time in the future that you know you will be able to take a few minutes and cast your vote. Thank you, thank you, thank you, my wonderful, wonderful listeners.
Spirit of a Badass is a Lit Path Studios podcast and is produced by Jamie Gale and Alecia Jacobson. Music by Shane Ivers. We'll be back with another inspiring interview. Until then, keep your spirits high and your energy badass.